And money is necessary. It is absolutely necessary. But once you achieve it, you realize it's empty. It doesn't hug you back. Yeah.
It's a really tough thing to invest a significant amount of time, a significant amount of resources, energy, effort to achieve a goal that you thought would give you this sustaining joy or bliss, only to realize that it's fleeting, and to the point that you just made. That's why meaning is so important.
And welcome back, everyone, to the Coachful Coaching Leadership Podcast. Today, I am joined by Ian Watts. He is the founder of Employee Success Company and the author of Cliché. Ian helps executives improve employee engagement, performance, and retention, and he created his ACTS method, ACTS method, after scaling an HR operation from 6 to 60 plus locations and recruiting 350 plus team members. His mission is simple: build businesses that bless the world. Mr. Ian Watts, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, David. I'm excited to be here with you, good sir.
Yeah. Your mission statement sounds like there's something deeper here. Build businesses that bless the world. Is that something you want to expand on?
Sure. Let's dive into it. My fear is I could run long because I know we're only going to do 30 minutes, but I suppose it would be helpful to give context, to share a little bit of my background.
Yeah.
To share how that was crystallized. So I was born and raised on the east side of Detroit. And in many ways, my story is somewhat familiar to a lot, but not all boys and girls, in particular, African American boys and girls who grew up in urban areas, in that my father was in prison. My mother, my brother, who's 4 years my senior, and we grew up on welfare. And so, as you can imagine, I wanted to get as fast and as far away from living on just $580 per month as possible. And so I saw entrepreneurship as a way out, because I naively thought that money was the answer, the end all and be all to solve all of my issues. Now, you and I both know that that's not the case, but I didn't know that at the time. In my defense, our brains are not formed until we're around 25. So in my feeble brain at the time, I thought that money was the answer to all issues. So I had dreams of being not just successful, but I wanted to be a millionaire, because who doesn't at the time, right? And not only that, I wanted to be a millionaire at the age of, or by the age of 30. I achieved my dream almost 4 years ahead of what I planned, but the bottom fell out of my first business. But it was also during that time that I was learning that all of the things that I thought that money would help with, it was not. You try money, you try, maybe for some, you try sex, you try trips, you try things, and none of that fills the void that's in your heart. So God began to work on my heart during that time. So it was through that experience, after having the bottom fall out. It's not that business was a challenge, but I happen to have a Christian worldview, and I won't impose that worldview upon you or your audience. But for me, God shared that the way that I would impact the world is through business. So that's how my mission to build businesses that bless the world was crystallized. So it's not necessarily about me. Yes. Will I get to enjoy some of the fruits of my labor? Absolutely. But what I'll do in the success that I have is more so for my succession, and so that resources can flow through me so that I could touch the lives of other people. That's where that came from.
Yeah, and Ian, do impose some of the religion here on this show. Not because I'm religious, I am not. I am spiritual. And I say that because the people who listen to this show are looking for some form of meaning and purpose, because that's ultimately how you lead as a better leader. That's how you find
Absolutely.
joy in life. That's how you find joy at work. And that's, a lot of self-leadership is about, if you don't have purpose, you don't have a meaning, truly something that is deeper than just the money and chasing the next thing, you will have your bottom fall out, right? You will crash and burn.
And
Maybe
nothing
not now.
to anchor you with.
Yeah. And money is necessary. It is absolutely necessary. But once you achieve it, you realize it's empty. It doesn't hug you back. Yeah.
It's a really tough thing to invest a significant amount of time, a significant amount of resources, energy, effort to achieve a goal that you thought would give you this sustaining joy or bliss, only to realize that it's fleeting, and to the point that you just made. That's why meaning is so important. And that's actually, I'm sure we'll cover it later. That's a significant part of the ACTS method. We have to make sure that people are connected to something deeper other than just stuff and things because it's hollow. Unfortunately, though, what's really interesting is we hear this and it's cliche and we hear it over and over and over again that money doesn't equal happiness. Stuff won't bring you joy. But it's one of those things that most people still seem to have to experience for themselves before they really come to grips with the idea of just how true those statements are.
Yep. Yep. I worked around a lot of, let's say very aggressive A-type salespeople, many of them very successful. And not all of them, but I could say that that field attracts a lot of a certain type of individual. And that is, if you're willing to sign a contract that says, look, you get 50% of your pay today, and then the other 50% is contingent on hitting these impossible quotas. And by the way, if you don't hit these quotas within the next 2 to 3 quarters, you risk being performance managed out, right? It takes a certain individual to want that. That same individual has a proclivity to want stuff, to like stuff. And I was around
Absolutely.
that. I still don't care. And I think I was very fortunate from a young age to know that I was looking for bigger meaning. Because let me give you an example. When I was younger, early in my career, I thought, when I make enough money, I want car number X, right? Like when I say car X, I mean like, a BMW.
Sure.
Then when I actually made enough money to buy the lowest end BMW, I never want to even buy it. Because you know what? I hate cars. They're a friggin' money pit. They piss me off when I have to go for an oil change. When they break down in the winters in Canada,
Yeah.
it pisses me off.
Yeah.
I hate cars. I like the idea of cars, though. I like the chase.
It sounds fun.
pursuit. But
Yeah, I
hate
agree.
cars.
I agree. Yeah. So please, if you will indulge, allow me to go back for just a moment to this wonderful leadership phrase that you mentioned. This is a seasoned PR phrase: performance management out, not fired, not terminated. You said that's spoken like a seasoned leader. Boy, I'll tell you, it's amazing.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. I don't know if that's a compliment, but we're gonna throw it back to you though, for a second, because part of that mission of blessing the world, building businesses that bless the world, you've actually taken some of that entrepreneurial spirit that you've built over the years. It sounds like you've rebuilt yourself, built a company that meant something to you for the world, and now you're doing something to help companies through your company, Employee Success Company.
Sure.
Right, to bring that to the world. You want to talk more about that?
Sure. I can tell you a little bit about the through line for my entrepreneurial journey and how I made the transition. So because I was looking for doing my first foray into entrepreneurship for mentors, and for whatever reason, it just didn't work out. It created a burning desire in me to be what I didn't see for other people. And so the through line, though you'll see a number of different things that I've done, is for the past 2 decades, I've been coaching and consulting entrepreneurs on some level or another. So I've worked with entrepreneurs, I've worked with seasoned leaders from startups to multi-billion-dollar corporations, but I've been doing that for the past 2 decades. And probably about the last 2 years, maybe 2.5 years, really, I began to feel somewhat unsettled because I wasn't convinced that I was having the impact that my capacity would allow. And so, though I always have a heart for the little guy, so to speak, because that's something that I always wanted. But because of the impact that I desire to have, I decided to turn away from focusing on small businesses and transitioning to at least the lower middle market and companies larger. And so, and the reason that I wanted to do that is because we have such a significant opportunity to impact the lives of those who we lead. Someone who's at an office for 8, 9, 10, sometimes 12 hours per day, the amount of impact that you can have on someone during that time period is exponential. So that's why I launched Employee Success Company. And probably over the last year and a half, I just been evangelizing the methodology, the ACTS method that you mentioned. But what I realized is, for a host of reasons, many companies need a done for you service. So that's how I made the switch from the Small Business Dream Coaching Company, which I still operate, it's mostly passive, to transitioning into Employee Success Company.
Okay. Can you talk more about this ACTS, ACTS, right? Is that right?
Sure.
Yeah. What
So
is that?
the X method is designed to significantly enhance employee engagement, performance, and retention. And the underlying magic behind the X method is to create a deep sense of reciprocity among those that are leading teams. So the A in the X method stands for aspirations, because most of us aren't necessarily doing what it is that we dreamed of doing on our jobs every day. So when you can help someone to achieve their personal goals and dreams, irrespective of what their job role is, or even another job role or title or position that people aspire to, something that makes their heart pant, that gets them out of bed leaping in the morning. We all have goals and dreams, and we all have fears. And we have to be reminded of the fact that despite how big the company is, despite the fact that we are marshaling our team toward a common vision and specific goals, we are not human doings, we are human beings. It is a fallacy that we check our humanity at the door and leave all of our challenges behind, leave our goals, leave our dreams behind. That just is not real. We are created to be social and relational creatures. So to try to treat people like cogs in a wheel, I think we do so at our own peril. So the A in the ACTS method stands for aspirations, helping people achieve their personal goals and dreams. The C in ACTS method really speaks to and is akin to what we were discussing earlier. Most of us know what it's like to achieve our goals. Most of us know what it's like to achieve our dreams if we are part of that wonderful A-type personality group that you mentioned. And then we get there and we discover that there's something that's empty about it. And that's because I happen to believe that all of us have a unique calling. So helping people to discover and demonstrate what they're called to do is something that's going to massively enhance engagement. So not only is my employer helping me achieve my personal goals and dreams, not only do I have training and one-on-one coaching to help me discover and demonstrate what I'm called to do, whether it is within this company or not. These are all things that create such a deep desire to want to show your gratitude and appreciation for someone transforming your life like that. You are overwhelmed with gratitude, right? So the A is for aspiration, C is for calling, T stands for transformation. How can I provide or how can I receive training that's not just going to help me for the current job that I have, or maybe for the job that I aspire to, but I'm a better person, not just professionally, but personally. I am better because when I experience the training that's being offered, when I go home, I'm a better husband, I'm a better father, I'm a better mom, right? So the first three letters in the ACTS method are really employee centric. And then the S stands for support. How can we work with the executive teams and leadership so that we can build in structural support mechanisms during the critical areas of an employee's life? So for example, when you said your son, prior to us starting recording, your son is 16 years old. Well, what happens when your son goes off to college and your employer sends a care package to your son on your behalf, right? What happens during a divorce, or what happens during an employee purchasing a new home and we have a care packet and a basket and a gift card? Like building in based upon what the budget is, being reasonable, building in a communication mechanism and systematizing support during the most critical times in life,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
treat people like people.
You just sparked something. One of my early jobs, like maybe 2 years out of university, small company here in Canada, very small company. Yet when I got married, they got me some stuff from IKEA, right? Because I was getting my first house and moving in. And by the way, those dining tables, I still own them to this day. 20
Seriously?
something, they don't make them like they used to. Okay. And
That's awesome. That's
20
awesome.
something years, yeah, 20 something years later, those tables are still in use, right?
That is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. And every time I look at it, I remember that first employer that
Mm-hmm.
I had, and I think about them. And yeah, like, their small shop, it was a good place to start. They treated me well, but mostly like those little things like that. Like I absolutely remember it to this
Doesn't
day.
it make such a difference? When someone has been such a blessing in your life, the natural response, the psychological response is, I want to be a blessing. So retention, staying there is the bare minimum bar. Not only am I going to stay, I'm going to do all that I can to show my gratitude because you've been such a blessing to me. And there is, if you look at this door behind me, that door has three little hinges. Little hinges swing big doors. It may seem like it's a little thing, but here it is 20 some odd years later, and you still think about that company with great affection because of what they did for you. That makes a difference because here's what we know. Salary and good benefits can bring people in, but it's culture that gets them to stay. You
Hmm.
can buy a hand for a season, but a heart has to be won. And how do you win a heart? I dare say that the X method is just a way to codify doing just that.
What do you say to, and you caught me like, yeah, I spent a lot of time in corporate America, working with big companies, lots of short term thinking. Um, so the short, and I empathize. On one hand, you have the pressures of Wall Street, right? Which is quarterly. I argue it's actually even shorter. It's weekly and monthly, which leads up to the quarter. And then, but you are pressed against that versus like, I've worked in tech, right? You're pressed against like innovation, right? So if you're not thinking long term and executing on long term, you'll get destroyed by Wall Street as well, right? So if your finances aren't good, you'll get destroyed. If your long term vision isn't good, you'll get destroyed. What would you say to those companies that are really focused on the first thing, like the short term? I need to hit these targets. I need to do this. They might be forgetting some of the culture stuff.
The reality is business is concentric circles. You cannot just have a love fest. You can't just have a love affair and say, we're just going to love on our people, appreciate our people. And if we're not performing, don't worry about it. We're just going to love them through it. So I'm really practical in that way. But the reality is, I think people need to reframe what it is that's really most important. So if you have deadlines, you're not achieving those deadlines. We recognize that as soon as we get promoted into leadership of any sort, management, that means you don't have the capacity to do everything yourself. You're doing it through your people. So whether it's a long-term timeline or a short timeline, you still have to invest in your people, and doing simple things, tactical things like a lunch can go a long way. If we have these, what seems to be impossible deadlines, right? And people are going to be working longer hours. All right, great. Let me be flexible, or let me just show, hey, listen, I appreciate you guys. I know that we're working long hours. Here's what the goal is. The pressure is going to relent, and in just a little bit, this is a season, but I want to be sensitive to where you are. Let me do small things to let you know that I see you, I hear you, and yes, you are giving me a lot right now, and I just want to show small levels of appreciation that can go a long way. We mentioned it, little hinges swing big doors. And if you're finding that maybe one of your team members, they're not performing at the level that they should, and you really need them to, well, rather than jumping down their necks, let's go out and say, let me treat you out and say, hey, how are you? How are things going? But you really have to be in tune with your people to know that, wait a minute, this isn't characteristic. So maybe before jumping down somebody's throat, let me find out what's going on. Let me share this without imposing some of the more challenging things that I have going on. In preparation for our time, I was just thinking, this has been a uniquely challenging season for me for a host of different reasons. Health challenges, some family challenges, and I could go on. And I won't give details regarding that because I don't want you to be depressed. But on a serious note, I was just thinking, our people are just like us. They have a world of life that's going on. And again, you don't check your humanity at the door, right? Do we all have a job to do? Yes. Do we need to learn how to compartmentalize and somewhat disassociate? Yes, but we are humans. Some of us are better at compartmentalizing than others. Some of us are better at tucking away what we're feeling so we can perform. And so just understanding that we need to know that to get the best out of our people, we need to treat our people like people. I just don't think we can get away from it, short or long term. We have to make sure we treat people like people. And if there's a condensed timeline, if it is truncated, that means we have to be more intentional, both strategic and tactical, with how we demonstrate that our people are people and we see them as such.
So your metaphor around every big door has three small hinges. What's your big door right now?
If you can ask that in a different way, I want to make sure I'm answering your question.
Well, you're saying there every big door, every door, like the one behind
Yes,
you, has three hinges, right? Three small
sure.
hinges that swing that big door, right? I'm curious, what's your door in that metaphor right now, your personal door right now, and what are those three hinges for you? Or
That's a great question. And I could probably answer that a number of different ways, but I will answer it from the perspective of what's going on personally. I think that once you live life a little bit, you have to learn how to weather storms well. And rather than kicking and screaming and lamenting that it's here, you have to make sure that what's right in front of you doesn't take your eyes off the big door of the impact that you want to have. So to answer your question directly in this analogy, my big door is the impact that I want to have on the world. And I want to be able to do that through Employee Success Company. There are much easier ways to make money than transitioning into a completely different market. And so for me, I think the hinges have much to do with just simply settling in and not allowing the short-term challenges to blind me to the long-term vision and impact that I desire to have. Because of my worldview, I'll share that I have a Christian worldview. I believe that I'm living for that day and not this day.
Mhm.
And so when I go to heaven, I'm going to have to give an account for what I've done with how God has created me, with my ability to think, with the resources at my disposal, with the opportunities that He's created. And so for me, it's always the hinges for me are always perspective, because Inky Johnson, motivational speaker, phenomenal motivational speaker, has a phrase. I love this guy. And he has no idea who I am. He says, how you view a thing determines how you do a thing. So for me, those little hinges are always perspective, making sure that I settle in and I'm viewing things the right way, because how we think drives the stories that we tell ourselves, drives or creates meaning. Meaning creates emotion. And though most of us don't like to admit it, it's emotion that drives the vast majority of what we do. So perspective is so important. So those are the hinges. The big door is the ultimate impact.
awesome. Thanks, Ian. I am curious, like, I see the fire in you, the discipline, the motivation, right?
Sure.
The love that you have and passion you have for this mission that you're trying to achieve. Who inspired you in your life? Who's inspired you to become the man you are?
So there are two people in particular that inspired me to be who I am. And the first person is my uncle Kelvin. When I was younger, I mentioned to you that my father was in prison, but I was really fortunate, though I'm sure there are some deficits that I may not be aware of by not having a father around when I was younger. I didn't feel any sense of loss because my uncle is who stepped in my life. My uncle was the first vision of what a man looked like, what it meant to be a man of your word, what it meant to invest in people, what it meant to take your time to labor with people, to show them how to do things. And in my case, whenever he was rolling, I was rolling. I was taller because I stood next to him. Even though he may never see this, I'm not going to share this with him, because I'm going to say that he's almost a foot shorter than I am. But I felt much taller as a kid because I was standing next to my uncle, because of how he just showered me with love. And consequently, he was a big part of the motivation for the Acts method, because there is very little, if anything, that he could call me, no matter what time, day or night, that I wouldn't try to break my neck to do, because of how deeply appreciative I've been because of the impact that he had on my life. Secondarily, a pastor by the name of Pastor Christopher W. Brooks. He labored with me until Christ was formed in me, because I was in a place of brokenness. And I tried everything that I knew to really experience this sense of joy and fulfillment. And the challenge was I was trying all of the wrong things. So I accepted Jesus as Lord. I'm sorry, I accepted Jesus as Savior when I was a teenager. He didn't become Lord of my life, literally living out what this Bible says, until I became a late teen. And that's when Pastor Christopher Brooks came into my life, and he literally walked with me. He challenged me. He gave me the balance of both tough and tender love, which is something I think as leaders is really important. We need to know that when our people have blown it and they've given their all and they've fallen on their faces, how about you not step on them? How about you give them a more tender and gentle approach to encouragement? And when we need to challenge them to stretch them beyond what they thought was possible, as good leaders and good coaches do, we need to do that as well. So that's the tough part. But it was those two people who really, really inspired me, and who had the characteristic that I wanted to embody as an adult.
What advice would you give to people who are still searching for purpose and meaning in their lives?
Well, this has much to do with your worldview. And so I don't really know how to answer that question effectively outside of issues of faith. And I happen to believe that all of us were created with a purpose. And if you want to find out what a product was designed to do, then you have to go to the manufacturer. You have to find what the manufacturer says. And so for me, the answer is give your life to the Lord. And not only that, you want to discover and demonstrate what you've been called to based upon what it is that God would have you do, because I believe we're all called to a unique purpose. And that would be what my greatest suggestion is. Now, it's been said that even if you do not believe in Jesus or the Bible, Jesus or God, the Bible is still one of the greatest books of wisdom known to man. And I would submit that there's a lot of truth in that. I take that back. I would submit that there's great truth in that, or even ultimate truth. So let's just say somebody says, I hear you, Ian, I like you, but I'm just not there. That's not what I believe in. That's not what I was taught. There are also some practical things that you can do to discover what you've been uniquely called to do. So there's an acronym called SHAPE. So what are your spiritual gifts? And if you don't want to consider the spiritual realm, what are your special gifts? What is it that you can do just really naturally and easily that other people can't? Then H, what is your heartbeat? What is it that gets you excited? And then what are your abilities? What are skills that you've been able to develop along the way? What's your natural personality type? Are you introverted versus extroverted? And then what experiences have you had all throughout your journey? So hopefully that's just a simple framework, even for those who don't have the same or share the same worldview as I do. I think that will get you a little bit closer to what it is that you've been uniquely crafted to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I think from what you said there, like on one hand, it's introspection, right? Like shape sounds like a lot of introspection, understanding of yourself, right? But I also feel that,
And with others, if I could jump in and share, life is a team
yep,
sport. We
yep,
often don't see ourselves well, right?
yeah,
So a lot of introspective work, but also, hey, what is it that you see? Some people are not very self-aware and it's difficult.
mm-hmm.
And, that's just a part of being humanity. We're social creatures. We need others. So
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump in,
No,
but I
no,
thought
no,
that was
no,
an
that's
important
fine.
point.
It's because the way we see ourselves is not necessarily how others experience us. But that
Absolutely.
said, it's, whether it's the Bible, Quran, Stoic philosophy, whatever it might be, I think it's imperative that you are well read, that you read, that
Yes,
civilization, humans have been around for a while, and many intelligent people have before us, before me and you, have written about and talked about human tendencies, whether good and bad, right?
absolutely.
And there's a lot you can learn from history as well. But I encourage people, and I encourage my kids to do this: is read, right? Read and understand, and start forming your ideas. Now, if a certain religion catches your eye, go for it. But you need to read to understand, because you need to find something that you find serves as a model for how you want to be as a person.
I could not agree more. And to not live congruently with the identity and the values and beliefs that we have deep convictions about, that's a recipe for disaster. One thing that I would share, just to put an exclamation point regarding the importance of reading and deeply understanding, is that if heaven and hell are real, and if it is true that we're going to spend an eternity there, I don't know if there's anything else that's more important than getting that right.
Hmm.
So ensure that you read and you develop deep convictions about what your beliefs are and what your positions are regarding issues surrounding worldview, because eternity is a long time. Eternity is a very long time, and there is nothing more important. There's a scripture in the Bible that says, "Life is short and it's filled with trouble." Life is fleeting. I just lost someone who's like a little brother, died at 36 years old. And it's so prevalent. People are passing unexpectedly. I don't know if there's anything more important than that very statement that you've just mentioned. It's important to really come to grips with your worldview and for you to be well read, because to have faith does not mean that you turn your brain off. Quite the contrary.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's the last point I would make on top of everything we've talked about is, if you don't know what your purpose or meaning is, it's okay. And you know what? Even if you found out today, right now, and you said, I think I know the meaning to my life, it's going to change again because your life circumstances will change. The other important thing is live your life as you're figuring it out.
Live it.
Purpose doesn't,
Live it to the full.
yeah,
Because even if it's not the thing, it will be the thing that leads to the thing. So run hard and run fast, because at least if you're running hard and you're running fast in the direction that you believe is the thing, you can always pivot. And life is full of pivots.
yeah. Well said, my friend. Well said. So, one last question to you. If you were to give advice on how to bring more joy into one's life, what advice would you give?
That's another one of those questions that the neuroscience brain in me, the neuroscience nerd in me has one answer. And then the Christian worldview has another perspective, not another answer, but another approach to it. I think it's really, really important to learn to enjoy the journey. And I'll give a little bit more context regarding this. I spent so much of my time trying to get there, wherever there is, that I had tunnel vision. And I wasn't taking the time to really appreciate all of the things that I could have been appreciating during the journey. The reality is, what's wrong is always available. I love this. Tony Robbins says this, and it's so appropriate. What's wrong is always available, but so is what's right. So learning how to intentionally redirect our focus, and I'm not saying ignore or neglect the challenges that you have, but after you've done your best to wrestle with and develop a plan of action to address the challenges, redirect your focus. I think most of us would be much more joyful if we spend a whole lot more time being thankful for the things that we have in our lives, as opposed to commiserating and allowing ourselves to constantly turn over and over again the things that we don't like. So what's wrong is always available, but so is what's right. And if we want to have a life that's filled with joy, we should spend a whole lot more time focusing on and being grateful for the things that are right in our lives. That's what I would say. Now, if you were to catch me tomorrow, I may have a different approach to that, but I think fundamentally, living a life where we are really embodying gratitude. I know it's a buzzword, I know it's cliche, but it's true. The data bears it out.
Mm-hmm.
The science is true. We have to make sure that we are very intentional about finding things to focus on that we're grateful for.
Yeah. It's Arthur Brooks, the author. He puts it a slightly different way. He goes, if your satisfaction and joy is defined as your haves divided by wants, if the wants is in the denominator of the equation, you got to make sure that your haves, the things you have a lot, right, and your want is less.
Love that. That is amazing. That's the first time I've heard that. That's awesome. That's
But
awesome.
that is basically appreciating the things you already have.
Yes, yes, yes. And you know what? If I could give people a practical tip, every day I have a priming process that I go through. So you want to make sure that as soon as you wake up, you want to raise your energy level by changing your physiology. You can do dragon breath, you can do jumping jacks, do whatever you need to do to raise your energy level. And you want to try to actually go and relive those moments of joy, relive those exciting moments of gratitude. Don't just think about them. You literally want to try to relive them, because there's a part of our brain called the RAS, and that is the reticular activating system. That's predominantly a filter. Like if we were to focus on everything that's going on around us, it would drive us crazy. So our brain uses this RAS to tell us what to ignore. But what it does is, the more we focus on things and the more we, with enough emotion, the more we concentrate on things that we're grateful for, the more things we find to be grateful for. So
Mm-hmm.
that's just it's important to bookend our days like that. So having a priming exercise that you go through, and you can find any number of them online. Start your day with embodying what you're grateful for, and end your day with the same thing, because life is challenging. Life has a way of lifing on all of us. Every day isn't sunshine and rainbows, but most people will say that I've had a bad day. And the reality is, you didn't have a bad day. You had a bad moment that you allowed to consume you for the rest of the day.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a choice. You don't have to do that, no matter how challenging the days are.
Yep. Amen to that, my friend. And, to all those listening right now, who are thinking, oh my God, is this like woo woo? Is this kind of life coaching stuff? No, it isn't. This is actually factually backed through hard
This is
science.
hard science.
Decades and decades of neuroscience of understanding human tendencies, things like loss aversion, Zeigarnik effect. I'd be nerding out on this stuff, your RAS systems. It is all human neuroscience here. Everything that we've talked about right now. No breathing and floating in the air stuff here. This is all real stuff. And on that note, Ian Watts, thank you for stopping by today, my friend. If folks need to find you and what you're up to, what's the best way to find you on the interwebs and stuff?
Wonderful. Well, let me just say it has been one of my great privileges to spend some time. We could have done this until this time tomorrow, so I look forward to doing it again in the future. So if you want to find me, you can go to employeesuccesscompany.com, employeesuccesscompany.com. And also to connect with me directly, you can go onto LinkedIn. That's Ian Watts, and you will be able to find me on LinkedIn.
All right. Well, Mr. Ian Watts, thank you very much for stopping by the podcast today. And everyone, thank you very much for joining me on another episode. And if you like what you're listening to, smash that love button and the subscribe, and just keep on rating me super 5 out of 5, my friends. All right. We'll chat soon, and see you next time. Ciao. That's a wrap on this episode of the Coachful Coaching Leadership Podcast. I'm David Fung, and my mission is to help leaders grow, lead with impact, and build thriving teams. If you found this valuable, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a fellow leader. Until next time, keep leading with purpose.